Good ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ajala Peter. Today we shall be discussing the equation of motion. The equation of motion. The equation of motion. Now, this equation of motion, they are just four numbers, and they are the pillars of mechanism. Probably, it is otherwise known as the dynamic aspect of motion. Because motion itself is divided into two parts. Motion is divided into parts which are the kinematics and the dynamics. So the dynamic is the equation of motion aspect of motion. So now let's start. Now, first of all, we shall be talking on the four equations of motion. They are just four in numbers. Four equations of motion. So first of all, we'll prove them all one after another. Now let's start. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity with time, right? So I can just say my acceleration is equal to v minus v naught over t. Or better still, I can say my acceleration is equal to v minus u over t. As my v naught is my initial velocity, also my u is also my initial velocity. So cross multiplying, I'll be having my at is equal to v minus u since this is over 1. So making v set of formula, my v is equal to u plus at. This is the first equation of motion. This is the first equation of motion. Let's write somewhere here. V is equal to u plus at. That's the first equation, law of motion. So now moving on. Now there is something in economics. When we talk about given sequence of numbers, for instance, let me assume I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and let me just say 12. You're now find the median of this number. What do? You check if it is arranged in the order, right? Ascending order or descending order. Then you count to find the median. 1, 2, 1, 2. These two are the center. Now, as these two are the center, what will I do? It says finding the median. The median will be equal to the sum of these two numbers at the center divided by 2, which is equal to 14 over 2. 2 here 1, 2 here 7. So finally I have 7. Right? Now, why do you think I have to divide by 2? Anything median is talking about average, because if I have 2 points A and points B, the median is also the average. That's the midpoint. It's also the average. So now, dealing with median, we're talking about average. Now, do you also know average can also be regarded as mean? As what? As mean. Provided is a sequence. It can also be regarded as mean. Sequence is just a series of numbers. Sequence is a number which is in chronological order with equal differences. As this is 2, the difference between them is 2, difference between is 2, difference between is equal, regular. And if it is 3, it will also be regular also. That's a sequence. Now that's an aspect of mathematics, sequence and series. But we're not going into that tonight. So now, as for this now, I'm having my mean. My mean is equal to the sum of the given numbers, x over number of items, isn't it? Now check it out. Finding the center, I can say this is why I want to look for the average. I'm looking for something that is in between that I don't know, isn't it? Something that is in between and that I don't know. And I have two numbers there. So what will I just do? Sum of the number. What are the numbers I have? 6 and 8. I added them together. Number of items. How many items do I have? 1, 2 divided by 2. So I can as well have classify average to be mean also. Because, for instance, okay, let me assume I have under 14, 14 there, yes. Assume I have 14 there, now I'm asked to look for the center, for the median. Now, normally let's count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is the center. The median is 8. Normally, I know the median is 8 from this sequence, right? Since the median is 8, fine. But let me now assume, okay, I want to pick everything. I can choose to pick 3. Let's check if it's going to give us the same answer. So let's just check. Now let me assume I'm picking this 3 now. 6 plus 8. I'll be having 6 plus 8 plus 10 divided by the number of items 1, 2, 3. So I'll be having it equal to 6 plus 8 is equal to 14 plus that's 24 over 3. Then this implies that what? It equals to 8. Right? Now normally what's the median we got? 8. So I can also classify average, anything average, to also be mean. As simple as that. So my average can also be my mean. Now moving on. The reason, the essence of all this is because I'm working towards something. To finding the second equation of motion. And that is where I've gotten to. Okay, now first of all, if I have my velocity, my velocity is equal to distance over time. So I can have cross multiply, my distance can be equal to Vt. Isn't it? Let's keep this one somewhere. Now, I now have a uniform accelerated body from rest. A uniform what? A uniform accelerated body from rest. Or better say, instead of from rest, I can say, okay, let me not say from rest. A uniform accelerated body from point U to point V. Now, there's a particular breakdown here. Isn't it? Fine. Now, so if from here to here is U and from here to here is V, definitely this place is V minus U. Isn't it? Now, I can say the average velocity from here to this place. Now, most times, average is basically used for non-uniform motion. For instance, if I should have something like this. Now, the velocity I use here is different from the one I used here. It's different from the one I used here. So looking for the average, I can't just say the velocity is that because it is changing. It is changing, it's not constant. So that's where average velocity is useful. So probably I'll just say, okay, the velocity here plus the velocity here plus the velocity here, all divided by the number of times it's changed. That was the reason. So I can say my average velocity is equal to V plus U over 2. Why do you think I'm using V plus U? Because there will always be a final and initial, no matter what. So if I'm looking for the average velocity between these 2 points, I can say this is my V and this is my initial. And once I also look for these 2 points, I can say this now becomes my U and this becomes my final again. So like that, I can say my V plus U is equal over 2 is equal to my average velocity. Just the application of what? Of my mean. So I can also say now sum of the items. The final and the initial velocity divided by the number of items, they are just 2 divided by 2. That's how I've applied it. So now I can now make it here. So average distance traveled can be equal to, so since distance is equal to Vt, I can say average distance traveled is also equal to what? Average velocity times time. So I can now say average distance traveled is equal, average velocity is equal to what? V plus U over 2 times time. So therefore distance is equal to 1 over 2 V plus U times T. This is the second equation of motion. That is the second equation of motion. That is the second equation of motion. So I would like us to note this somewhere. Okay, so the second one is this R V plus U times time. That's the second equation of motion. That's the second equation of motion. So now let's move further. Okay. Now the third equation of motion. Now in the first place, I have my velocity is equal to U plus AT. Isn't it? Now I can now say, okay, since my V is equal to U plus AT, now from the second equation, from equation 2, which is S is equal to 1 over 2 V plus U times T. I can make this sort of formula by saying, okay, I can substitute for V. How do I calculate? S is equal to 1 over 2. What's my V? My V is equal to U plus 80. So I can just substitute it. U plus 80 plus my original U here times 10. S is equal to 1 over 2. So U, I open the brackets, plus 80 plus U times 10. So my S is equal to 1 over 2. U plus U is 2U. So having 80 plus 2U times 2. So I can choose to open the bracket with this first, then this later. It depends on my choice. So I can say S is equal to half 80 plus, now for this, half 2U. Everything into brackets C. So if these two cancels this, I'll be having my S is equal to half 80 plus U. Everything times T. So let me now open with that in. I can now have my S is equal to half 80 times this T to become 80 squared plus what? UT. So if I'm to rearrange it according to the way we write it, S will be equal to what? UT plus half 80 squared. This is the third equation. That's the third equation. That is the third equation. As simple as that. Now for the next one. I can derive it in here. I can use this alone to derive it and as well use this, depending on choice. Let me put it that way. Choice. Both will give the answers. Now first let me use the first method. Method 1. Now since my V is equal to U plus 80, let me square both sides. So I'll be having V squared is equal to U plus 80 all squared. So open the bracket, V squared is equal to U plus 80. U plus 80. So my V squared will be equal to U times U. U squared plus U 80 instead AUT plus AUT plus 80 times 80. I'm having 80 squared. So I can now have my V squared equals to U squared plus this is 2AUT plus 80 squared. Now there has to be something here that it's factorizable actually. So I can have my V squared to be equal to U squared plus 2A. So once I move to all will be left with UT plus then here 1 over 2 80 squared. Am I making any sense? Now you know right. So look at this very well. Look at it, very easy. Now from equation 3, from equation 3, S is equal to UT plus half 80 squared. I can make a proper substitution there. So probably I can say since S is equal to UT plus half 80 squared, therefore V squared is equal to U squared plus 2AS. This is the fourth equation. V squared equals to U squared plus 2AS. That's the fourth equation. And that's just the first method for getting that. And there's another method you can use to get that. There's another method you can use to get that. And another method you can use to get. And the other method is this. Now, equation 2 says S is equal to half V plus U times T. Isn't it? Now, from this, I can make this sort of formula by saying V minus U. Let me rearrange the process. Now, from equation 1, let me make this sort of formula. So I can have V minus U equals to T. So divide both sides by A. This removes this. Then T is equal to V minus U over A. Now, let me just call this equation alpha. So now I can now say substitute equation alpha into equation 2. What was equation 2 please? S is equal to 1 over 2 v plus u times time, right? So let's substitute. My s will be equal to 1 over 2 v plus u. What's my t? My t is v minus u over e. So I can say, let me unlock the bracket. This is over 1. This is 1 over 2. So let's unlock. So my s can be equal to v squared. Now this 1 times this, as we can see, this is difference of two squares. That's plus and minus. That is where whenever I have a plus b times a minus b, it is equal to a squared minus b squared. So same thing as occurred here. So I can just say v squared minus u squared all over 2 times 1, 2 times a, 2a. So if I should cross multiply, I'm having v squared minus u squared equals to 2as. So my v squared is equal to u squared plus 2as. I don't think this is even faster and better than that. So that's just it. Quite easy. So these are the 4 equations of motion. So this is the summary. These are the 4 equations of motion. Now there is an observation. Check this. In equation 1, distance is absent in the equation. We don't have distance there. Distance is absent. Distance is absent. As for this, there is no distance. In this, there is no acceleration. Here, there is no final velocity. And here, there is no time. So meaning everything is just arranged in order. So whenever you find out in your question you don't have distance in it, definitely this may not be useful, this may not be useful. This solves it best because you don't need distance to solve it. You don't need distance in the equation, in the formula. Here, where there is no acceleration, once you are given a motion question and you find that acceleration is not among these parameters, then you should consider this first, even before thinking of any other one. So that's that. So that's just the 4 equations of motion we have. Thank you very much. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Just the Fiken Math. And don't forget to comment your views, like and share. So meet you same moment M time T, same value V. Thank you very much. My name remains Ajala Peter. Meet you